Any case of glaucoma, if it's left on its own, it's going to progress, and the patient will start to complain, going up from falling, problem with driving, problem with readings, mobility problem. Several studies showed that in all controlled cases of glaucoma, there is a rate of progression on the average between 0.3 to 0.8 decibel per year. So always there is at least 1 decibel per year progression of glaucoma in controlled cases. If on the left side, this is the field, on the horizontal, this is the age. If the field damage is progressive, if you reach to a level of minus 14 decibel, this is visual impairment. If it's below 22, this is legal blindness. So we want our patient to be in this zone till the end of his life. So target IOP is the upper limit of IOP estimated to be compatible with the rate of progression, sufficiently slow to keep good quality of life in the expected range of the remaining time of his life. We need first to estimate it, which target should we use. In this period, we depend on risk factors. But after 2 years, we know exactly what is the rate of progression. Then the estimation is not a major factor for us anymore, and we depend actually on what is the rate of the progression. What are these risk factors? First, the initial IOP, the level of IOP before starting treatment. If you go to the AGES Advanced Intervention Glaucoma Study, in this study, they get a group of patients, they check the pressure once every 6 months for 3 times. Then they get the patient into the study. They take the average of these 3 readings and start to classify the patients either below 14 or above 17.5 or in between. And on following over the years, the group 17.5 was the one that's showing progression. So initial IOP is an important, if it's high, the risk of progression is high. Then the age of the patient. If this is the rate of progression in a person, say 65, but if the same rate of progression and you're starting with the patient 50, is going to go into the zone of problems. So the younger the patient, you need to lower a target IOP, choose a lower target IOP. The amount of damage. If the patient is more or less 1 decibel difference, not like a one with 10 or 11. So the more the damage, you need to choose a target IOP, lower. How to determine the amount of damage? We can depend on the mean deviation up to 6, between 6 and 12, more than 12. This is mild, moderate, severe glaucoma. Or if you go for the Canadian outlines, they say that early glaucoma, you get field changes somewhere in the field. Moderate glaucoma, you get so many field changes, but avoiding the central 10 degrees. Severe glaucoma, the central 10 degrees is included. This is for the Canadian guidelines. For the American guidelines, early glaucoma, there is no field changes at all. Moderate glaucoma, you find field changes in one of the 2 hemispheres, either up or down. Severe glaucoma, if the changes up and down in the hemispheres, or if it is in the central area. So whenever you have a patient with field changes in the central area or extensive up and down in the field, this is a severe glaucoma. This is an example. Number 1, this is pre-perimetric. Number 2, moderate, being in one hemisphere. Number 3 and 4 are severe because being up and down at number 4, or being central at number 3. Disc changes can help, especially when your patient gets a very thin or a 0 in the circumference. The more the 0 area in the circumference, it is more severe case. Other risk factors, there are factors that affect the rate of progression. Like pseudoexfoliation, it's known that patients with pseudoexfoliation progress quite rapidly compared to other types of glaucoma. Pigmentary glaucoma, secondary glaucomas, these types of glaucomas progress more rapid. Now, high IOP, if you keep your patient control over the time, the rate of progression is quite low, but those that they couldn't keep the patient control over the follow-up period, the rate of progression was more. In this study, the blue bars are the cases with the rate of progression high, while the lower part with the white with the rate of progression small. As you can see, the level of the IOP on the left side, the higher the pressure during the follow-up, the higher the possibility of progression. Vascular factors like disc hemorrhage, migraine, both systemic hypotension and systemic hypertension are risk factors for progression. Sleep apnea, spasm, diabetes, myopia. All these are factors. If they are there, then you are considering your patient at a risk more for progression. Sometimes, if you see the patient for the first time, you can get an impression about the rate of progression if the patient showed previous fields before coming to you, or if you are dealing with an eye with an advanced damage. So to sum up the risk factors, starting IOP, age of the patient, amount of damage, the factors we've been talking about, the rate of progression, or maybe you can estimate what's going on before. How low should it be? There are several guidelines. Say the Canadian guidelines say if it's a mild glaucoma, target IOP should be 20 millimeters or 20% reduction. If it's moderate, it can be 17 millimeter or 30% reduction. If it's severe, it's 14 millimeter or 30. If you go to the American guidelines, it's lower than that. Why they are giving us millimeters and percentage? Check your patient, choose which is more lower. If you choose the 20 millimeter, this is more lower, this is your target. But if your pressure, if you make it 20% lower, will be lower, then this is your target. For example, this is the case of moderate glaucoma, and we say we can do it either 30% reduction or 16. If you go to the left side, if you make it 30%, it will be that high, 21. If you make it 16, then you choose the 16. So you get two ways. Pick up the one that is more lower. Target IOP is not fixed for all eyes. There is no a single target IOP appropriate for every patient, for every eye. After the first 2 years that we make a field 3 times per year for 2 years, now we can have an impression what is exactly the rate of progression. Then if it's slow, we can increase the interval between one field and another, but if it's short, it's progressive, then we can go for short. If by time you get something else like high IOP, like disc hemorrhage, then you shorten the interval between. So at this stage, the estimation depends on real things in front of our eyes. If you meet your target IOP and the patient is still progressive, then you need to lower the pressure more by 20%. This will make the situation more stable. So you need to readjust your IOP with time. Thank you.